Rimuru Go Back in Time by Rimu-chi. Before Duel. I am Tempest. Tempest stood tall under the bright sunlight, a thriving nation bustling with activity. The city had grown rapidly, with vibrant streets lined with shops, happy citizens, and monstrous but harmonious architecture that blended nature and civilization. At its heart stood Rimuru's castle, a grand and imposing structure that symbolized the strength and unity of Tempest. The castle's design was both elegant and practical, showcasing Rimuru's meticulous planning and Diablo's keen aesthetic sense. Within the castle, Rimuru's office was a spacious room filled with ornate furniture, shelves lined with important documents, and a massive desk where Rimuru sat. Despite the room's grandeur, it retained an air of warmth, thanks to the sunlight streaming through large windows and the presence of Rimuru's loyal subordinates. Rimuru sat comfortably in his chair, his blue hair glinting in the sunlight as he casually leaned back. Around him were his closest and most loyal subjects, Benimaru, Soe, Hikuro, Geld, Ranga, Rigard, and the Kaijin brothers. Gobta stood awkwardly to the side, his presence a mix of pride and slight nervousness. Behind Rimuru, standing as ever in his usual elegant demeanor, was Diablo, his demonic aura exuding silent menace. In a corner of the room, Rimuru's fiancés gathered, chatting among themselves. Shizu, Rain, Kaguli, Mayoran, Tis, Shion, Shuna, Soka, Goblina, Gabwa, and Belzard were all present, their laughter filling the room. Misery, the ever-dutiful maid, stood behind them, ensuring their comfort. Irina and Kumara, Rimuru's playful sisters, sat close to him, clearly delighted to be part of their first official meeting. Rimuru sighed lightly, tapping his fingers on the desk. All right, everyone, listen up. I have some news. Hinata will be arriving in Tempest in a couple of days. The room instantly became quieter, with everyone turning their attention to Rimuru. She's coming here to face me directly, Rimuru continued, his voice calm but with a slight edge of amusement. Shizu's eyes widened at the name. She leaned forward slightly. Hinata. Why would she come here to fight you, Rimuru-san? Rimuru gave her a small smile. She was involved in the Falmouth invasion and even tried to kill me once. Though she failed, of course. His tone was casual, but the hint of playfulness was unmistakable. Now, I've challenged her to a duel, and she's accepted. She's coming here for that. Benimaru frowned. Rimuru-sama, what do you want us to do? Should we prepare for anything specific? Rimuru waved a hand dismissively. No need to worry, Benimaru. I'll handle the duel myself. She's strong, but, honestly, she's too weak to pose a threat. Shizu tilted her head. You know she can't win, right? Rimuru nodded with a light chuckle. Exactly. But still, I have to see this through. It's a matter of principle, and she'll need to face the consequences for her actions. Gobta scratched the back of his head awkwardly. So, you've got a plan, right, Rimuru-sama? For once, Rimuru smiled at Gobta with genuine approval. For once, Gobta, you're absolutely right. Gobta puffed out his chest proudly, but as the realization hit him, he scowled. Hey, wait a minute. That sounded like an insult. Irina, perched next to Rimuru, smirked. It was an insult, Gobta. You're always a joke. Kumara, sitting quietly next to Irina, tugged on her sister's sleeve. Irina, don't bully him. Gobta might be, not the smartest, but he's a good person. The room burst into laughter at Kumara's shy yet honest words, with even Rimuru cracking a wide grin. Gobta groaned loudly. Why does everyone always make fun of me? Rimuru leaned forward, bringing the meeting back to order. Alright, enough teasing Gobta. Now, I've received some intel. It seems one of the 10 great saints has secretly brought 100 soldiers without informing her. I'll need someone to take care of them discreetly. Soe immediately bowed. I'll handle it, Rimuru-sama. Gobta perked up, trying to redeem himself. I can help too. Before Rimuru could respond, Shion stepped forward, her energy uncontainable. My unit can take care of that, Rimuru-sama. Leave it to me. Rimuru nodded. Alright, Shion. It's yours. But make sure it's clean and quiet. Shion's eyes sparkled with joy as she clasped her hands together. Yes, Rimuru-sama. I won't let you down. Rimuru then turned to Irina and Kumara. You two will accompany Shion and her unit. Stay with the soldiers for now, but only fight when I give the signal. Irina saluted playfully. You got it, big brother. Kumara nodded shyly. Understood, big brother. Rimuru shifted his gaze to Diablo, who stood silently behind him, awaiting his orders. Diablo, there's a small army heading toward where Yum and Grucius are stationed. I want you to stop them, but no killing. Understood. Diablo bowed deeply, his crimson eyes gleaming. As you wish, Rimuru-sama. It shall be done. Rimuru added, also, there's a red-haired girl among them. Let her go. Diablo raised an eyebrow, curious. May I ask why, Rimuru-sama? Rimuru leaned back in his chair, smirking. That girl will become an ally to Tempest in the future. But not yet. Diablo's admiration for Rimuru shone in his expression. As expected of you, Rimuru-sama. Your foresight is unparalleled. Rimuru sighed, waving him off. Yeah, I'm a genius. Now stop. Rimuru glanced at Rigard. What about Ramirez and Veldora? Rigard quickly reported, Lady Ramirez has completed 49% of the labyrinth's construction, and Lord Veldora is assisting her. Rimuru nodded, satisfied. Good. Once the labyrinth is complete, we'll be raking in money. Keep that in mind. Seeing no further points to discuss, Rimuru stood. That's all for now. Meeting dismissed. The subordinates bowed deeply before leaving the room, their steps echoing in the hallways as they departed. Only Rimuru, his fiancés, Irina, Kumara, Diablo, and Misery remained. Shizu approached Rimuru, her expression slightly worried. You're not going to hurt Hinata, are you? Rimuru's playful demeanor softened slightly. No, I won't hurt her. But she does need to be punished. Shizu sighed in relief. As long as she's safe, I'm fine with that. Rimuru nodded and walked toward the balcony, stepping out to gaze at the vibrant city below. Suddenly, a voice echoed in Rimuru's mind. Master, I have a message from Lady Seal. Rimuru's eyes widened slightly, his breath catching for a moment. He hadn't heard from her in months, and the weight of her absence suddenly hit him. Seal. I missed her, he thought, his chest tightening. What's the message? He asked, his voice soft. Lady Seal says her project is almost complete. She will be ready to return by the time the founding festival begins. Rimuru couldn't help but smile, the warmth returning to his heart. She's coming back. His quiet laughter drew the attention of Irina and Kumara. Irina smirked. Big brother is planning something scary again. Kumara nodded timidly. Whenever he laughs like that, it's always something crazy. Belzard raised an eyebrow. Oh. And how would you two know that? Irina grinned mischievously. Because he's our big brother. The room filled with laughter as the fiancés joined in, teasing Rimuru about his scary plans. Rimuru sighed, exasperated but amused. All right, enough. We have guests arriving soon, so let's be ready. The air was light-hearted, but everyone knew that beneath Rimuru's playful exterior lay a mind that was always 10 steps ahead, preparing for whatever challenges lay ahead. In Kingdom of Bloomand. The Kingdom of Bloomand stood as a testament to rapid development and prosperity. Once a relatively small and modest nation, it had grown into a thriving hub of trade, innovation, and culture, all thanks to its alliance with the Jura Tempest Federation and Demon Lord Rimuru. The streets were filled with people from different races, humans, monsters, and demihumans, moving in harmony. Advanced infrastructure, including paved roads, magically powered lighting, and bustling marketplaces, showcased Tempest's influence. Hinata and her group, Arnold, Bacchus, Fritz, and Lytus, walked through the lively streets, their eyes scanning their surroundings with a mixture of awe and wariness. This is impressive, Fritz muttered, his gaze lingering on a towering building adorned with Tempest's emblem. Lytus nodded in agreement, her expression one of cautious admiration. According to the information I gathered, all of this is because of Demon Lord Rimuru. His influence and trade with Bloomand have transformed the kingdom in just a few months. Fritz frowned slightly but nodded. Even though he's a demon lord, I must admit Demon Lord Rimuru is a good ruler. It's hard to deny his results. Bacchus, ever the skeptic, folded his arms. True, but don't forget, he's still a demon lord. Power like his always comes with a price. Fritz sighed, scratching the back of his head. Yeah, you're right about that. And now, he's challenged Hinata to a duel. We can't let our guard down. Lytus glanced at Hinata, who was walking slightly ahead of them, her expression unreadable. Hinata, are you sure about this? Can you really go up against Demon Lord Rimuru? Hinata didn't stop walking, but her voice was steady as she replied, I'm not sure, Lytus. But I don't have a choice. This is something I have to face. The group fell silent for a moment, their footsteps the only sound as they continued through the bustling streets. As they passed by rows of shops, Hinata suddenly froze in place. Her sharp eyes locked onto a small, unassuming store nestled between two larger establishments. Hinata? Bacchus asked, noticing her abrupt halt. The others turned to see what had caught her attention. The store didn't stand out much, but its design was unfamiliar to them. The sign above the door displayed symbols and characters they didn't recognize. What is this place? Fritz asked, narrowing his eyes. Before anyone could say more, Hinata abruptly strode toward the store, her movements purposeful. Wait, Hinata. Arnold called after her, but she was already opening the door and stepping inside. The group exchanged confused glances before following her. What's gotten into her? Bacchus muttered as they hurried after her. I don't know, Lytus replied, glancing at Fritz. But did you see her expression? She seemed familiar with this place. Yeah, Fritz said. It's strange. Let's catch up to her. The interior of the store was simple but cozy, with wooden tables and chairs neatly arranged. The air was filled with a faint but enticing aroma of freshly prepared food. Hinata had already taken a seat near the corner, her posture unusually relaxed. Arnold, Bacchus, Lytus, and Fritz joined her, sitting down at the same table. A young girl, likely a waitress, approached them with a polite smile. Welcome. What can I get for you? Without hesitation, Hinata replied, onigiri. The girl nodded, jotting down the order, before turning to the others. We'll have the same, Fritz said, and the others quickly echoed him. The waitress nodded again and disappeared into the back. As they waited, Lytus leaned closer to Hinata, curiosity evident in her expression. Hinata, why did you come to this store? You seemed excited. Hinata's lips curved into a faint smile, a rare sight for her companions. This store reminds me of my old world. Your old world? Bacchus asked, confused. Hinata nodded. The design, the atmosphere, even the food they serve. In my world, onigiri was a common but beloved dish. Simple. Arnold scratched his head. I see, but this is all new to us. I don't think I've ever heard of onigiri before. Lytus tilted her head. Is it something special? Hinata shook her head. Not special, but nostalgic. It's something I grew up with. The group exchanged glances, unsure of how to respond. Well, Fritz said, leaning back in his chair. If it's something from your world, then I guess we'll get a taste of what it was like there. Hinata rested her hands on the table, her gaze distant as she waited for the food to arrive. Memories of her old life flickered in her mind, moments of simplicity and peace, long before she had become a knight or carried the burdens she now bore. For a brief moment, she allowed herself to feel a pang of longing for that simpler time. The others, sensing her mood, refrained from asking more questions. They sat in quiet anticipation, waiting for their meal and wondering what exactly made this dish so special to Hinata. The girl returned with a tray balanced expertly in her hands, placing the dishes one by one onto the table. Steam rose from the freshly made onigiri and miso soup, and alongside each plate was a pair of chopsticks. The girl smiled warmly as she explained, these are chopsticks. If you don't know how to use them, feel free to eat the normal way. Enjoy. With that, she bowed politely and walked away. Hinata stared at the chopsticks in front of her, a nostalgic pang hitting her. Without hesitation, she picked them up and attempted to use them. However, despite her best efforts, her grip was clumsy, and the food slipped out of her grasp repeatedly. Her companions, Arnold, Bacchus, Fritz, and Lytus, watched in stunned silence as the usually composed and skilled Hinata struggled with something as simple as eating. Fritz, always the first to break the silence, leaned in with a smirk. I never thought I'd see the day our captain could be defeated by chopsticks. Hinata ignored the remark, her determination unwavering. Finally giving up on perfection, she awkwardly used the chopsticks to pick up a piece of onigiri. She took a bite, but the moment the steaming hot food touched her mouth, her eyes widened, and a sharp, involuntary sound escaped her lips. Pshaw! She hissed, waving a hand in front of her face. The group erupted into laughter, Fritz nearly choking from how hard he was laughing. Did I just hear our cold-hearted captain make that noise? He teased, wiping a tear from his eye. Arnold joined in, his usual calm demeanor cracking. Hinata, you might want to let it cool first. Lytus grinned, leaning forward. Who knew the mighty Hinata could be undone by something as simple as food? Even Bacchus, who was usually more reserved, let out a chuckle. This is a moment I'll remember forever. Hinata's cheeks flushed slightly, and her piercing glare swept over the group. The laughter died down quickly as her companions sat back, hands raised in mock surrender. Satisfied that they got the message, Hinata returned to eating, carefully this time. The others, deciding to avoid any further embarrassment, abandoned the chopsticks entirely and ate with their hands instead. As they finished their meal, Hinata leaned back slightly and muttered, "Thanks for the food." Her companions, momentarily confused, glanced at each other before mimicking her. "Thanks for the food," they echoed in unison, though it was clear they weren't entirely sure why they were saying it. The group relaxed for a moment, discussing the meal. "This was different," Arnold admitted, his tone thoughtful. "I liked it," Lytus said with a nod. "But I'll be honest, I don't understand half of what I just ate." Bacchus crossed his arms. "It's strange, but it grows on you. I wouldn't mind having it again." Fritz grinned. "Honestly, I'm curious about Hinata's old world now. If this is the kind of food they had, I wouldn't mind visiting it." Arnold raised an eyebrow. "You say that as if it's possible." "Hey, a guy can dream," Fritz replied with a shrug. The waitress returned to the table, her smile as bright as before. "How was the meal?" she asked. Arnold was the first to respond. "It was good. I've never had anything like it before." "Yeah," Fritz added. "You've got some serious skills here." Lytus and Bacchus nodded in agreement. Hinata looked up and spoke calmly. "Can I ask you something?" The girl tilted her head. "Of course. Where did these foods come from?" The girl smiled proudly. "Lord Rimuru taught us how to make them. We learned directly from his people in Tempest." Hinata's expression didn't change, but she nodded thoughtfully. The girl continued, "I actually work at a restaurant in Tempest. I'm just here temporarily to help my father with this shop." Lytus couldn't help but ask, "You work with monsters?" The girl frowned slightly but then smiled again, her voice firm. "Don't call them monsters. They're just like us. The only difference is their strength and appearance. In every other way, they're the same as humans." Arnold, Bacchus, Fritz, and Lytus exchanged shocked glances, taken aback by her words. Hinata remained silent for a moment before asking another question. "Have you ever seen Demon Lord Rimuru up close?" The girl brightened. "Not just seen him, I've spoken to him. There was one day when Rimuru-sama and his sisters came to the restaurant I work at. I was the one who served them." Fritz leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. "When? What were they doing there?" The girl chuckled softly. "What else? Eating. Rimuru-sama and his sisters were spending time together. They were so close. It was adorable, honestly." Hinata stood abruptly, placing money on the table. "Thank you for the meal." Without another word, she left the shop. The others hurried to follow her, quickly paying their share and thanking the waitress before stepping outside. As they walked through the streets of Bloomand, Arnold, Bacchus, Fritz, and Lytus couldn't stop talking about what they'd learned. "This world is changing so much," Arnold said, his voice filled with wonder. "And it's all because of Demon Lord Rimuru. I never thought I'd say this, but I wouldn't mind coming back here just to eat again," Fritz admitted. Lytus nodded. "It's strange, but everything seems so peaceful here. Maybe Rimuru really is different from other demon lords." Bacchus frowned. "Peaceful or not, we can't let our guard down. Rimuru is still a demon lord. We have to be careful." Hinata, walking slightly ahead of them, remained silent. Her thoughts were focused elsewhere. In her mind, the gears were turning rapidly. If Rimuru continues to advance the world at this rate, the Tenma War will happen sooner than it's supposed to. I have to tell him about it. Her expression hardened as she led the group to where their horses were waiting. Without a word, she mounted her horse, and the others followed suit. The journey to Tempest start once again. 2 days later, Hinata and her group, Arnold, Bacchus, Fritz, and Lytus, arrived at the border of Tempest. They had expected a land ruled by a demon lord to be imposing, perhaps even foreboding. Instead, what greeted them was entirely unexpected. The roads were smooth and well maintained, making travel easy even for their horses. The surrounding area was bustling with activity, but it wasn't the chaotic scene they might have imagined. Humans and monsters walked side by side, working together, trading goods, and chatting amicably. Merchants had set up roadside stands, selling a variety of wares. Children, both human and monster, ran around laughing and playing. It was peaceful, more so than any of them had anticipated. Arnold couldn't hide his amazement. This is not what I expected at all. Monsters and humans, working together like this." Bacchus nodded, his brow furrowed in thought. In other nations, even the smallest monster would be attacked on sight. Here, they're treated like equals. It's unsettling. Lytus chimed in, her voice filled with curiosity. According to the reports, this is all thanks to Demon Lord Rimuru. But seeing it with my own eyes, it's hard to believe a demon lord could create something like this. Fritz scoffed, though not dismissively. It's impressive, sure. But we can't let our guard down. Peaceful or not, this is still a land ruled by a demon lord. We shouldn't forget that. Hinata, riding at the front of the group, remained silent. She had expected Tempest to be different, but even she was surprised by what she was seeing. She brought her horse to a halt near a goblin standing by the road. Hinata addressed the goblin directly, her tone neutral but commanding. How much farther to Tempest's main city? The goblin, clearly unbothered by Hinata's imposing presence, smiled and replied, it'll take you about 3 more days if you're heading straight there. Tempest is a big nation, so it takes time to travel through it. But if you need to rest, there's an inn about half a day's travel from here. Arnold, Bacchus, Fritz, and Lytus exchanged shocked glances. They couldn't believe what they were witnessing. Hinata, someone known for her unrelenting stance against monsters, was calmly speaking to a goblin instead of cutting him down. As the group resumed their journey, Fritz couldn't help but voice his thoughts. Captain, I never thought I'd see the day you'd ask a monster for directions. Bacchus nodded in agreement. Not long ago, you'd have killed any monster you saw on sight. What changed? Hinata didn't turn to face them as she replied, this isn't the same as other places. Attacking recklessly here would only get us killed. Besides, I'm not here to fight anyone except Rimuru. The group fell silent, processing her words. They continued following her, the peaceful scenery around them at odds with their preconceptions. After half a day of travel, they reached the inn the goblin had mentioned. It was a well-built structure, simple yet inviting, with a steady flow of travelers entering and leaving. Most surprising of all was that both humans and monsters were staying there together without issue. As they entered, the innkeeper, a lizard man, greeted them warmly. Welcome to our inn. Are you staying the night? Hinata stepped forward. We'll need rooms for the night. The lizard man nodded and quickly arranged accommodations for the group. Hinata paid for her room without hesitation, and the others followed suit. As they walked to their rooms, Arnold leaned toward Fritz and whispered, I still can't get used to this. Monsters running an inn. And they're polite. Fritz shrugged. At this point, I'm just going with it. No point overthinking. The group settled into their respective rooms for the night. Hinata, however, found herself unable to relax. She spent the evening lost in thought, preparing herself mentally for the confrontation that awaited her in Tempest. Next day. The following morning, the group gathered in the inn's main hall after paying for their rooms. The innkeeper bid them farewell with a smile as they prepared to leave. As they mounted their horses and began their journey again, the conversation from the previous day lingered in their minds. Arnold broke the silence. I'll admit, I didn't expect to sleep so soundly in a place run by monsters. Bacchus smirked. Maybe Rimuru really has figured something out. This kind of coexistence, it's unheard of. Lytus added thoughtfully, if this is what his influence has done to the borderlands, I can't imagine what the main city must be like. Fritz grinned. I just hope the food in Tempest is as good as what we had in Bloomand. If it is, I might start liking this place. Hinata, once again at the front of the group, remained silent. Her focus was on the road ahead, but her mind was racing. 2 days later. Hinata urged her horse to go faster, her eyes fixed on the horizon. Her focus was unwavering, the urgency in her mission clear. Behind her, Arnold, Bacchus, Fritz, and Lytus struggled to keep up, their exhaustion evident. How much longer are we going to ride like this? Bacchus groaned, gripping the reins tightly. I swear, if I have to spend another day on this horse, I might just drop dead. Fritz, riding beside him, laughed humorlessly. I thought I was ready for anything, but apparently, I wasn't ready for this. My legs feel like jelly. Arnold shook his head, his voice filled with mock determination. Come on, you two. Think of it as training. By the time we reach Tempest, we'll be elite riders. Lytus, rolling her eyes, shot a glare at Arnold. Elite riders or not, I'm with Bacchus. We've been traveling for days without rest. Can't we slow down for a bit? Hinata, hearing their complaints, sighed softly but didn't turn around. Why did they have to come with me? She thought, frustrated. Their constant grumbling was grating on her nerves, but she kept her focus on the road ahead. As the group continued, a telepathic message suddenly echoed in Hinata's mind. Lady Hinata. Copyright Euro Times, they are in at $%. The voice was garbled, but it was unmistakably Leonard. Hinata's eyes widened, and she instinctively slowed her horse. Leonard. What's happening? Are you okay? She called out mentally, trying to make sense of the distorted message. Another fragmented response came through. Copyright pound euro copyright, soldiers. Dollar and at dollar and. Then, silence. Arnold, noticing Hinata's change in demeanor, urged his horse closer. Hinata, is something wrong? You look uneasy. Bacchus frowned. Yeah, what's going on? You're never this distracted. Before Hinata could answer, a deafening explosion echoed from the forest ahead. Birds scattered from the treetops, and the ground trembled beneath their horses. Hinata pulled her horse to a stop and raised her hand to signal the others. That sound. We're heading toward it. Be ready for anything. The group nodded, their exhaustion momentarily forgotten as they followed her into the dense forest. After weaving through the trees, the group reached a small hilltop that overlooked a battlefield. The sight below left them speechless. 12 goblins, armed and fighting with shocking precision, were holding their ground against 100 of holy knights. The knights, clad in gleaming armor, were struggling to maintain their formation as the goblins attacked relentlessly. Arnold leaned forward, his expression one of disbelief. What the hell is going on here? Why are holy knights fighting goblins? Fritz shook his head, his brow furrowed. This doesn't make sense. Holy knights don't just attack goblins, and even if they did, goblins wouldn't stand a chance. Bacchus pointed toward the battlefield, his voice rising in alarm. Look at those goblins. They're healing as soon as they're hit. What kind of monsters are we dealing with? Lytis, her gaze sharp, added, this isn't normal. Their weapons, there's something off about them. On the battlefield, the goblins moved with unnerving coordination. One goblin was struck down by a knight's sword, only to rise moments later, its wounds closing rapidly. Another goblin swung its weapon at a knight, the blade glinting with a strange liquid. The knight blocked the attack but staggered soon after, his movements sluggish. Sleeping medicine, one knight shouted, his voice panicked. Their weapons are coated with it. Despite their overwhelming numbers, the holy knights were being pushed back. Their ranks were breaking, and the goblins showed no signs of retreating. Arnold stared in shock, his voice low and disbelieving. This is impossible. Those goblins are frank monsters. How are they overpowering knights who are A and B plus rank? Fritz, his hand on the hilt of his sword, muttered, if goblins in Tempest are this strong, what does that say about the rest of this nation? Bacchus shook his head, his tone grim. I've never seen anything like this. If this is the work of Rimuru, then we've underestimated him. Lytis, her eyes narrowing, added, this isn't just about strength. Those goblins are fighting with strategy. Someone's trained them. Amidst the chaos, a figure caught Hinata's eye. A tall woman with striking purple hair stood at the center of the battlefield, wielding an enormous sword with ease. She moved with a mix of elegance and brutality, her strikes sending holy knights flying. Lytis gasped, her voice barely above a whisper. That woman. She's one of Rimuru's fiancés, isn't she? Arnold and Bacchus exchanged stunned glances. A fiancé? You're telling me Rimuru's engaged to her? Arnold asked incredulously. Fritz nodded slowly. If that's true, then we're way out of our depth here. Hinata's eyes narrowed as she studied the woman. Who is she? And why is she here? Before the group could process Xian's presence, two more figures descended onto the battlefield. One was a girl with a calm, confident demeanor, Irina. The other was a small yet imposing figure radiating power, Kumara. Hinata's breath hitched as recognition dawned. Irina and Kumara, she muttered. Arnold, Bacchus, Fritz, and Lytis stiffened, their expressions turning serious. Rimuru's sisters, Bacchus said, his voice filled with apprehension. Why are they here? Fritz added, if those two are involved, this isn't just some random skirmish. Something bigger is happening. Lytis turned to Hinata, her voice urgent. What do we do now? Do we step in? Or do we stay back? Arnold added, if we're not careful, we could end up caught in the middle of something we can't handle. Hinata's mind raced as she tried to come up with a plan. The presence of Xian, Irina, and Kumara complicated the situation far beyond what she had expected. What's going on here? She thought, her frustration growing. Why are Irina and Kumara involved? And why are holy knights here? Her hesitation didn't go unnoticed. Bacchus leaned closer, his voice low but insistent. Hinata, we need a decision. What's the plan? But for the first time in a long while, Hinata found herself uncertain. The battlefield before her was a mystery, and the weight of the unknown pressed heavily on her shoulders. To be continued.